What's up, witches? It's Claudia here, and I have some exciting news. Finally, we have created a Patreon. So you can find us at patreon.com/truecrimecovenpod. At the moment, there is only one tier. It's the familiar tier, and it's just where you can chuck us £1 just to help keep us going every month. We aim to expand on this and create new tiers and exciting content. But for now, if you'd like to support us in this way, please do go ahead. That's patreon.com/truecrimecovenpod. Enjoy the episode, guys.
What's up, witches?
Hi, I'm Claudia.
And I'm Jess.
And welcome to True Crime Coven. Hey Jess, you alright?
Hey Claudia, yeah, I'm good. You okay?
Knackered, but good. But I mean, I think everyone's knackered this time of year.
Yeah, it's a very busy time of year.
Simply having a busy time of year.
And it's also been really, really cold and really, really wet. And
I don't remember it being this cold before in life.
No, like -7.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Baltic.
Yeah. Also, I just feel like this time of year, when it gets dark at like 4 o'clock, you're like, oh, well, it must be bedtime. And then you look at your like right now, it is pitch black outside and it's like 7:45. It is not late.
It doesn't bother me though, because I like the dark.
Okay.
Well, I don't like the dark. I'm afraid of the dark. But I mean, I don't mind dark evenings. Like, that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I think because I'm a night owl, it doesn't signify bed to me.
Okay, so you don't associate it with... Whereas I'm like literally looking at the clock being like, when is it an appropriate time to go to bed? Because what else do you do with your evening?
I kind of like going to bed during the day with like the light coming through.
Oh no, I can't do that.
I love going to bed in like the sunshine, like falling asleep in the sun.
I like falling asleep in the sun.
Like sunlight pouring through my window, love it.
Oh no, I like falling asleep on a sunbed, getting burnt.
Oh yeah, that's the best thing on holiday, when you're like sleepy and tired and you just come out the pool and you're like cooling down.
And you don't have to wake up for anything. You're like, I can just sleep here as long as I need to.
I did once, and this is such a first world problem, but I did once fall asleep not in the sun, like in a shade, but in the heat in Singapore next to the pool.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, I couldn't feel my arm for like 20 minutes and I was really I knew it wasn't a problem, but then inwardly I was like, what if it is?
What if it never comes back?
I was like, what have I done?
This is my life now. I just don't have an arm anymore.
But evidently it was fine.
Yeah.
So the case that we've got today, I know you know.
Oh, okay.
Because you suggested it.
Ah, is it a Christmas one?
Well, I don't want to call it a Christmas one, but it happened around this time of year.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to be covering the murder of Joanna Yeates.
Yeah, I have heard this one before.
And this is a woman whose disappearance, like I said, happened during the festive period, which makes it more heartbreaking in a way, I think.
I think we said about it last week, about how actually, although it is a very festive, supposed to be happy, jolly time of year for people who have tragic stories such as this, like not even similar to this, but something sad happening around Christmas, it makes you remember it a bit more because it's that time of year, isn't it?
Christmases are hard. Even if you lose someone like in June, you know, as far away from Christmas as you can, Christmas is hard because it's still like a poignant time where like everyone's like, be with your family, be with your loved ones. Losing someone at this time of year makes it doubly hard.
Yeah,
I'm definitely finding at work, you know, obviously deaths are upsetting any time at work, but I'm finding them a bit harder at the moment because I know it's forever going to be all that more painful.
Yeah, that is, it's just a bit heavier, a bit,
Yeah.
You
so
get that constant reminder, don't you?
Exactly. So without further ado, I suppose we'll get onto this case because it is quite long.
Yes. I do remember it dragging out for quite a while, so I can imagine actually getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it definitely took longer to research than it normally does for me.
Oh, wow.
And trigger warnings. I wouldn't say that there are any particular trigger warnings for this case, but as always, it's obviously violence against someone. It's a murder. So just look after yourselves and in general, look after yourselves during the festive period.
Yeah.
So Joanna Claire Yeates was born on the 19th of April, 1985. and was one of 2 children to her parents David and Teresa Yeates. She had a brother called Christopher. The family lived in the southeast English county of Hampshire. Joanna received a private education and proved to be a bright young woman, going on to graduate from Writtle University College in Essex with a degree in landscape architecture, before going on to receive her postgraduate diploma in landscape architecture from the University of Gloucestershire. In December 2008, the 23-year-old 5'4", blonde-haired and blue-eyed Joanna met the 25-year-old architect Greg Reardon at the firm Highland Edgar Driver in Winchester, Hampshire, where the two were both employed. They ended up falling in love and moving in together, settling in Bristol when the company, known as HED, relocated there. Joanna soon landed a new job after their move, now working at Building Design Partnership, and life seemed to be going well for the young architects, with Joanna's mum, Teresa, describing her daughter and Greg as a lovely couple. In October 2010, Joanna and Greg moved into a flat in a large house in Clifton, an affluent part of Bristol. And as people who live in Bristol, we can attest to this. Like, the houses are beautiful.
It is spenny to live there.
Yeah. Like, even when they're divided into flats like this was, they're just stunning. They've got, like, high ceilings, period features, heavy wooden doors and, like, wooden floors.
It'd have been a big flat as well. Like, they're not stingy flats in Clifton, are they? They're nice.
And the area is full of young professionals, such as Joanna and Greg. But devastatingly, because we are all sat here speaking about Joanna, we all know that the couple's lives are about to change for the absolute worst. On the evening of December 17th, 2010, Joanna went out for drinks with work colleagues at the Bristol Ram pub on Park Street, which doesn't exist anymore. I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
She chatted with her work friends and expressed how she wasn't looking forward to her weekend, as it would be her first time alone in their flat whilst Greg was away for the weekend in Sheffield, visiting his half-brother Francis. She planned to preoccupy herself by baking in preparation for a party herself and Greg were hosting the following week, as well as getting some of her Christmas shopping done. At around 8 p.m, Joanna said her goodbyes and began making her way back to her flat on foot, a 25-minute walk. At around 8:10 p.m, Joanna was seen on CCTV leaving Waitrose on Clifton Triangle without buying anything. And fair enough, that's expensive. And Waitrose, no. And then at roughly 8:30 p.m, she had a phone conversation with her best friend, Rebecca Scott, to arrange meeting up on Christmas Eve, just 1 week away. And I'm not sure if, like, maybe that was when the Christmas party was going to be, or if they were just meeting up, like, you know, Christmas Eve drinks.
Just because, yeah.
Yeah. The last known CCTV footage of Joanna shows her buying an oven pizza from Tesco Express on Regent Street in Clifton. Much more my level of spending, Tesco. Yeah. She also purchased 2 small bottles of cider at an off-licence called Bargain Booze. And that was the last time Joanna was seen. Greg was unable to get hold of her all weekend, and after trying to call her when he first arrived in Sheffield on Friday night, then again twice on Saturday, but to no avail, he began to get a bit worried, but he wasn't overly concerned. And I think we have to remember that in 2010, phones, like, they weren't quite as glued to our hands as they are now.
Yeah. Also, if he knows that she was going out with her work friends Friday night, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily sit on your phone while you're out with your work friends, especially in 2010, as you said, you're not as glued to your phone. So you're probably thinking, oh, she's out with the girls, she's not going to answer her phone to me, that's fine, I'll ring her Saturday. Ring her Saturday morning, she doesn't answer her phone, you're probably thinking, oh, maybe she's a bit hungover, she might not be up yet.
Yeah.
Not concerned yet, but...
It's like worrying, but you're not going to call the police over it.
Yeah.
However, when Greg walked through the couple's front door at around 8 p.m. on Sunday, December 19th, 2010, he found their shared home empty, with the hall and lounge lights on, Joanna's boots in the middle of the hallway, and some coats strewn about on the floor. Greg later told the jury during the subsequent trial that he wasn't immediately concerned even then, thinking that she may have just popped out and would be back soon, and thinking that she'd just been a bit lazy or, like, gone out in a hurry, so, like, throwing a few coats on the floor. Like, he just thought that she had just been careless, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's nothing there that would have been a red flag. If it's something that you knew that not necessarily they would have done, but if she was in a rush, you might not, if you knocked her coat on the floor, you wouldn't necessarily pick it back up then and there, would you? You'd wait And you'd be like, oh, I'm going out for 10 minutes. I'll come back and pick it up. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can see why he wasn't alarmed.
Yeah, it's
initially.
like, when I think a lot of people get this, but when you're getting ready to go for a night out, for example, you sometimes turn your room like upside down trying to find an outfit.
Yeah.
You could easily look at that and be like, oh, it's a mess. It looks like a struggle. Or it's just someone getting ready.
Yeah. Like I've done it loads of times when I haven't decided what to wear. I'll have like 5 different outfits laid out in front of me, and then you decide on the night, but you don't put the other 4 outfits away because you end up in a rush.
I mean, you even having them laid out is like good going, because I just normally throw things everywhere. But then I also know you're kind of lying, Jessica, because I've seen your bedroom floor.
It's not that bad at the minute.
It can't be. You would lose the baby, Jess. Your mum even said that at your baby shower. She was like, I'm worried Jess is going to lose the baby. And everyone was like, but she's safe. She's almost due. And she was like, no, physically lose the baby in the mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your mum called you out.
Yeah. I mean, I say it's down to, I do have a broken chest of drawers, and they've got worse as well. Like, I can't put anything in there. I need to just get a new one.
Fair. Anyway.
Sidetracked.
Greg expected that she'd be back soon enough so that the couple could watch the final of The Apprentice together, as they had planned. So he continued his evening. He tidied the flat a bit, he ate some dinner, he had a cider. But when an hour had passed and still there was no sign of Joanna, he tried to call her again to see exactly where she was and what she was up to. However, it was then that he heard her phone ringing from her coat pocket. And this made his stomach drop. The coat that the phone was in was her warmest winter coat, and with the temperatures below freezing at the time, Greg was sure that Joanna wouldn't have left their home without it. Greg described how he tried to keep calm and rationalise things, thinking that she'd just forgotten her phone and had gone out in other clothes, perhaps choosing to go to a friend's house to watch The Apprentice final instead. And so Greg continued to tidy the flat, and it was then that he came across Joanna's blue rucksack, and whilst rummaging through it, he found her glasses, wallet, and her keys. It was at this moment that the panic really started to set in. Greg said that, in best case scenario, he thought that Joanna had been locked out of her flat without all her things, but the worst case was unthinkable.
Yeah.
Greg began ringing round all of Joanna's friends in Bristol, before ringing all of his friends too, desperately trying to find out where she was. It was then that it also dawned on him that the couple's cat, Bernard, had been exceptionally affectionate to him since he had returned home. It appeared that he was hungry, and his litter tray was dirty. In the couple's bedroom, Greg also found one of Joanna's earrings on the floor of the bedroom and another under their duvet, which was abnormal as she usually took these out and placed them on her bedside table. And I know it might seem like a small detail, but I think when you live with someone, you get to know their habits and things, and I just think,
if something's out of ordinary, you'd be like, that's weird that they did or didn't do that.
Yeah, and just say, I don't know if they were, but just say they were expensive or sentimental earrings. I've got a ring from my nan and then one of my favourite rings. I'm never just going to leave that in my bed. It's always going to go where it's meant to go. Yeah. Because I don't want to lose that.
It's ritualistic.
Yeah.
You do
That's a creepy way to put it, Jess, but yes.
But you know what I mean? It's more than just,
ritualistic.
It's more than just a habit.
Yeah.
You wouldn't ever put it anywhere else.
Yeah, because otherwise I'd lose it, and then I can't replace my nan's ring, and I can't financially replace the other ring.
Yeah.
With still no sign of Joanna, and with no friends knowing where she was either, at 12:36 a.m. on the 20th of December 2010, Greg decided to call Joanna's parents. And he must have been really worried at this point, because I think obviously it's quite late to call her parents. They're quite far away. But he's just thinking of everything. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure how this conversation went, but it must have been decided that they too were worried about their daughter. As just 9 minutes later, at 12:45 a.m, Greg called the police to report Joanna missing.
To be fair, he probably just had to ring them and say, have you heard from her? And they've gone, actually no, the last time we heard from her was before this Friday night. Yeah. And then he would have immediately known something was wrong. If I chat to my parents every day, and then so if Aidan rung my parents and was like, I haven't seen or spoke to Jess since Friday, and they were like, oh, I haven't seen or spoke to Jess since Friday, and now it's Sunday. They would very quickly come to the conclusion that something was wrong.
I speak to my parents regularly, probably not every day,
Yeah.
but like regularly enough. And like, yeah, I think if the main people in your life, i.e. the people that birthed you for us, which isn't for everyone, I know, but and then like your partner and like your friends, like if no one's spoken to you since Friday, and it's now Sunday, it's definitely going to set off alarm bells.
Yeah. And the cat as well. Like, I think the cat's such a giveaway.
Yeah, because we know as cat parents, like we love our cats. If Karen's always hungry, but
yeah, so is Albus. But he would be like, if you went and the bowl was like completely empty and licked clean, and the litter tray was dirty and literally came bounding up to you as you walked through the door, like there's little signs as well that like the cat can give away that no one's been there all weekend.
I think Karen wouldn't be such a giveaway because she always licks a bowl clean. She always bounds up to us when we come home, and she doesn't have a litter tray. But if you came back and the ferrets had no water, no food, and they were filthy, that would be such a giveaway because, I wouldn't leave them like that.
Yeah.
I care for them. I think just everything's really falling into place that this is a big worry. And the police obviously thought so too, because from what I can tell, they sprang into action straight away. And within 4 hours, they'd even interviewed the nearby neighbours.
Oh, wow. That is quick.
So, they were taking this seriously as well.
Considering it was like a late Sunday night.
Yeah. However, they turned up nothing either. As standard procedure, the police did, of course, examine Greg's phone and laptop like it's usually the boyfriend or the partner. But they found nothing, and he was almost immediately ruled out as a suspect.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. No, Greg, from everything I've read, seems amazing.
Oh, good.
And so the search was ongoing, and to help aid it, Greg and Joanna's friends set up a website and used Facebook to spread the word. They urged other users on the social media platform to replace their profile picture with one of Joanna with the couple's black and white short-haired cat, Bernard. Visitors to the website could download posters of the photo too to print out and put up in their windows. They could also watch the CCTV footage of Joanna's final movements, and they could sign up to a Twitter campaign to find the young architect. So, they were really on it straight away. Her brother, Christopher Yeates, spent his days handing out leaflets and putting up posters around Bristol, hoping that someone would see them and come forward with information that would lead to her safe return. On December 21st, 2010, Joanna's parents and brother, along with Greg, made a public appeal for the safe return of their beloved daughter, sister, and partner. As David and Teresa spoke about Joanna, they broke down in tears. David described his daughter as a vibrant young woman and said that her disappearance was completely out of character for her. He urged the public to help find her. In the hope that perhaps Joanna would have chosen to leave of her own accord, David held his wife's hand as he said, "Joe, whatever the reason you have not been in touch over the last few days, we want you to know that we love you dearly. Please get in touch as soon as possible, either to the police or to anyone who can confirm that you are okay." Deputy Superintendent Mark Saunders from Avon and Somerset Police, who was leading the investigation, also reiterated how out of character Joanna's disappearance was for her, and told the public that the police were concerned for her welfare and needed help from the public to find her. He said, "We have gone through every normal scenario as to where she could be, but nothing has turned up so far. This is not something she has done before. She is a vivacious, sensible, professional woman." 2 days later, on December 23rd, David Yeates spoke in another press conference, expressing his belief that Joanna was abducted after returning home to her flat in Clifton, saying that although he has no idea of the circumstances of her abduction, he felt sure that she would not have gone out by herself and left the belongings behind that she did. He said that he believed that she had been taken away somewhere. He also appealed again for more information about Joanna, and honestly, hearing the appeals made me cry, reading the appeals, because you can just, you can't imagine, but you can imagine.
I feel like as well, even the circumstances without knowing her are suspicious. But completely. Also, if you know someone really, really well and you go home to that and it's so out of character, and nobody's seen them, and you've seen this CCTV footage of her being like all well and fine on Friday night, you know that she has been abducted and she has been taken against her will somewhere.
Yeah, because there was no indication that she was unhappy and going to run away. Like, apparently before, I think Greg used her car to drive up to Sheffield. So it's not like she had a car to drive somewhere.
Yeah. Also, she was telling her friends how, like, upset she was that she was spending the weekend alone. Like, she obviously really liked Greg being there.
Yeah, exactly. And she had a Christmas party planned. And I'm not saying people don't plan things and then harm themselves, but they had a Christmas party planned.
Yeah.
It was going to be their first Christmas together in the flat.
Yeah, and she'd planned to, like, bake for the Christmas party.
Yeah. And like I said, she didn't have a car to get away with. They met in the lobby of either their work or her work to say goodbye and have a kiss and a cuddle before he went away for the weekend as well. Like, this wasn't a woman.
Yeah.
No, this wasn't a woman in an unhappy relationship.
Yeah.
And if it was an unhappy relationship, she'd go home to her parents, I believe.
Yeah, and also...
Because it seemed like she was close to them.
Yeah, also, she obviously didn't have her car, but to not take her phone, her keys, her purse, her glasses.
Yeah, that's more than getting away from a relationship. That's like trying to start a new life almost.
Yeah,
and
those earrings. Weird. Yeah, her warmest coat. Like, you would take those things with you if you were running away.
Yeah, like, even if you're going to start a new life and you don't want to take your phone or like your keys, like, don't need my keys, don't want my phone. Why not take your warm coat and your earrings?
Yeah, and your glasses to see. Like,
as someone who wears glasses, you need them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go anywhere without my glasses. I would feel very vulnerable.
Yeah, so that is... I vaguely remember, like, the Facebook things going around and the press conferences. Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't live in Bristol at the time, so it was less prominent for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, this really made me cry. So David Yates said in this press conference, "I've got to believe that she's alive. If the inevitable... If it turns out she isn't, I still want her back. I still want to hold her one last time." He also addressed anyone who may have abducted her, telling them, if she is dead, then please tell somebody where she is. And like, the way it's written, you can tell that he can't even bring himself to say it.
Yeah.
In places. And like, it just, about him wanting to hold her one last time just really got me. I was literally writing this, and I had a glass of wine, but I was crying, and I was like, oh,
I do think
horrible.
It is that closure, isn't it? Like, even if you know that someone has died, if you don't have their body, like, you can't give them the burial or like the cremation or whatever you want to do with that body. You can't give it that respect that it deserves.
Yeah, because it's like, even if you're someone like me who believes that the body is just a vessel and, you know, you're no longer in it, you still don't want to picture your loved one somewhere not nice.
Yeah.
And you still think of them like, you know, it was cold at this time. You still think of them out in the cold. Even if they can't feel that cold, you still have that part of you where like, I don't want her to be cold.
Yeah, or just like, just give them the respect that they deserve. Like, they can't respect themselves anymore, unfortunately. So they have to rely on other people to show them that respect.
Exactly. Teresa Yates also spoke. She said, "I sometimes picture her. If she had for some reason collapsed or been discarded, and if she was alive in all the snow and the cold, I just can't bear the thought of it."
That is so heartbreaking.
And this other one brought me to tears as well. Teresa added, "I miss not being able to hold her, cuddle her, and say everything is all right. I just want her back. My little Jo, come back. Whoever's got her, don't keep her. Give her back to us. Nobody can feel the pain we feel." And it was my little Jo, come back. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Like, I think the use of nicknames and like the my little, like, she is somebody's daughter.
Yeah, she's someone's baby. Like,
and
you know, you're always
really
your parents'
young.
babies. Yeah, 25. Like, you know, she was, I mean, and she was so successful. She was doing so well for herself, which makes it really sad as well. Greg Reardon also told in the press conference how Joanna was his future and how the upcoming Christmas would be their first together and how they had plans to spend the new year in Scotland. And detectives had noticed something when searching the flat. So remember that pizza she had bought from Tesco?
Yeah.
Well, whilst police had found the receipt for that pizza in the couple's flat, confirming that she had taken her shopping home that night, They couldn't find the pizza, nor its box packaging anywhere. So, like, obviously not being able to find the pizza, fine, she might have eaten it.
Yeah,
but
fair.
They couldn't find the packaging.
So there was no evidence that the pizza was there or had ever been there.
Well, it was a bit like, obviously she's brought things home.
Yeah.
But
like her
where's the
phone's
pizza?
there, her keys are there.
Yeah, and why would you take your pizza out with you? Like, your uncooked pizza out with you, but not your phone?
Yeah. Priorities, I guess.
Yeah, but I prefer my pizza cooked.
Yeah. Each their own.
This may seem small, but this told the police that, like I said, she'd been home but had just left. Like...
Yeah.
Now, this definitely made the case more suspicious. And the 2 ciders she purchased on the way home, they too were found in the flat, with one of them partially consumed. And some people then became obsessed with the fact that she bought 2 bottles of ciders. They were like, oh, maybe she was going to have someone over. But I don't think that. Like,
no.
I just think, like, 2 bottles of ciders I would definitely buy for myself. Like, she'd been out drinking. She had left quite early, like 8 p.m. She clearly fancied another drink. She thought, oh, I'll grab 2. Like, you don't have to drink 2, but you can buy 2.
Also, like, normally if you drink 1, you're always like if you buy the second one, you've got the option to either drink it or leave it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you just
don't have
buy
to have
one, if you just buy one, you're like, oh, I should have got another one.
Exactly, and it's cold. You don't want to head back out.
Yeah.
You want to go home, get in your PJs. Like,
who's to say she wasn't gonna like give it to Greg when he got back? Like maybe
or have it the next
she just
night.
popped in and was like, oh my god, this is our favourite ciders. Like they haven't been in stock for ages.
Could have even been a deal on.
Yeah.
But yeah. So people read into that. I think it's...
Yeah, I think they read too much into it.
Yeah, it's not like she bought a bottle of wine and put out 2 glasses, you know?
Yeah.
Forensic examiners said that there was no evidence of forced entry to the flat, nor did there appear to be any signs of a struggle, except for, like, perhaps the coats that were on the floor. And so the police began to examine the possibility that perhaps Joanna had known her abductor.
I think the earrings are a bit suspicious of, like, struggling, because if she always put them on the side and they were, like, almost thrown onto the bed.
Yeah.
Who's to say that wasn't
I suppose they couldn't...
a struggle?
I suppose they're used to seeing struggles that are, like... Okay,
big.
Like you'd think if you had a struggle in the bedroom, it wouldn't just be your earrings that were everywhere. Like the duvet be in disarray, like the bedside table, like maybe the lamp would be knocked over, etc. Like obviously I don't know how her bedroom looked, but I suppose then maybe they can't really have that as evidence of a struggle.
Yeah, say it was or wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can say it's out of character, but they can't just put that down to a struggle. It could have just been... Maybe she was a little bit tipsy and she was like, ooh, earrings. Yeah, that would be me after 2 beers sometimes. Sometimes it just hits different, you know? Yeah. On Christmas Eve, Joanna Yeates was remembered during midnight mass at Christ Church in Clifton, and churchgoers across Bristol, and across the UK to be honest, prayed for Joanna's safe and swift return home. But heartbreakingly, at 9 a.m. on Christmas Day, a couple walking their dog came across the body of a young woman in the snow and leaves in a roadside verge in Fayland, a village in North Somerset, close to the Bristol border. In fact, where the young woman's body was found was just 3 miles away from Joanna and Greg's home. And you could probably tell me if I pronounce Fayland right.
No idea.
Oh, okay. It's really close to where you grew up, Jess. But that's
I didn't
fine.
grow up that side of Bristol.
Yeah, but you grew up in Bristol and it's 3 miles away from Clifton.
Yeah, but I'm very North Bristol and Clifton South Bristol.
I don't even know what North and South Bristol is, okay?
Oh, there's a big difference between North and South Bristol.
Well, we're not getting into the politics of Bristol.
I wouldn't, but yeah. The North is better.
Okay. Whilst the woman's identity wasn't confirmed, David and Teresa Yeates were informed of this development, and what I can imagine was already the worst Christmas of their lives suddenly became even worse. Soon, however, formal identification of the body did take place, and the young woman was confirmed to be Joanna Yeates. Detective Chief Inspector Phil Jones said that the police believed that Joanna's body had been on that roadside verge for several days due to how frozen she was. The Yeates family said that it had been a relief to see Joanna's body after going through the worst week of their lives. And like we said, like I kind of get that. Like I'm not going to pretend that I understand what they're going through, but I understand that the limbo could be worse.
Yeah.
The next day, on Boxing Day, the post-mortem took place, and it was determined that Joanna had died by compression of the neck. She'd been strangled to death.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. David Yeates said in a statement, "Hearing Jo had been murdered was not a surprise, because we'd been told to prepare for the worst." He went on to describe how the week where she was missing was the worst week of the family's lives, and then said, "Things were made just that little bit less terrible when we saw Jo's body. It was a relief to see Jo's body again. We just said, welcome back."
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. But now that Joanna had been found, police were working round the clock to try and find her killer. In fact, around 70 police officers and civilian staff were involved in the investigation.
Oh, wow.
I know, which was one of the biggest in Bristol in years, with the police receiving more than 1,300 pieces of information and 900 lines of inquiry, with 239 of those classed as high priority.
Oh, wow.
Additionally, more than 100 hours of CCTV footage was reviewed by the force. And this is the thing, people always say, like, oh, I hate how there's, like, they're always watching you, there's so much CCTV. And I think now, like, I personally, call me whatever, but I kind of like that there's that much CCTV, because I think, yeah, they were able to get, they know her last movements because of it.
I'm the same, because if you have nothing to hide, what's wrong with them being able to see your whereabouts? Because I think I'm more likely to be a victim than an attacker personally.
Yeah.
So actually, yeah, follow me all you want, because if someone does something to me, you've got it on camera and that's only going to benefit me. I think the only people who are moaning that everything's on camera, like, are people who have or are planning to attack something or are annoyed that...
Well, yeah, like, I've had people be like, yeah, but I don't like the government watching me. And I'm like, but they're not really watching
also,
you. They're only watching if something happens.
If you're doing suspicious, yeah. Also, as if the government sit there and listen to every single person's conversation. Like, are you really doing anything that interesting? Do you think someone's going to sit there and watch you and listen to you?
Well, it's like the whole thing when they were like, they're tracking us with the COVID chip. And I'm like...
Yeah.
Okay. Like, literally during COVID, what were you doing, Jess? Staying at home or going to work? Like,
literally, like, what else could you do? I would go on like a walk every day, but that was half an hour maximum. Do you know what I mean?
Don't get me wrong, we're entitled to our privacy, and I don't want to live in like some Big Brother society. But like, I also, like, if it's going to mean that murderers are more likely to be found, crack on.
Then yeah, go ahead.
Anyway. Detective Inspector Jones said how police officers meticulously searched the area where Joanna had been found and examined all possible routes between there and her Clifton home. He also added that there was no evidence to suggest that Joanna was sexually assaulted, although he did not rule out... Oh yeah, thank God. Although he did not rule out a sexual motive to her murder. Let's be honest, women tend to be... It's either like a hate thing or it's a sexual motive, sadly. But just after 7 a.m. on Thursday the 30th December 2010, Joanna Yeates' 65-year-old landlord, Christopher Jeffries, was arrested on suspicion of her murder. In fact, not only was he her landlord, but he was also her neighbour, living, I think, above her within the same converted house. Yeah, I believe it was like above her. The police held him for 2 days in total before he was released on bail. His arrest came after a tip which was called in by another neighbour who lived within the same building, who stated that they had seen Christopher Jeffries' car change direction on the night of Joanna's disappearance. Although Christopher Jeffries was released on bail, he was still treated with suspicion and hounded by the media, who decided he was guilty because he was deemed eccentric and therefore weird. But we'll go on to that later on and how the press treated him.
Okay.
It was pretty bad. A tip came in from a young woman attending a party at a neighbouring house on the same road that Joanna and Greg lived on December 17th when Joanna disappeared. The woman said that she remembered hearing 2 loud screams just after 9 p.m. coming from the direction of Joanna and Greg's flat. Another neighbour who lived behind the house said that he also heard a woman scream, "Help me," although he wasn't sure exactly when he heard this plea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could be related, could be...
Yeah, I mean... I also understand why he wouldn't necessarily know when he heard it, because this was the last Friday before Christmas, which is also known as Mad Friday, where everyone goes out and gets drunk.
Yeah.
So it was like expected to be a rowdy night. I do think help me is a bit much to hear.
Yeah, like if I heard someone shout and help me, I would investigate it until I knew that it was safe. Because you don't just shout help me for...
But then I suppose if you only hear it once, what are you meant to do? Like, you're like, oh, I think it came from over there. But like, what are you going to do? Knock on every flat in that house?
Yeah.
It is difficult. And the screams, like, unfortunately, you do hear, like, if you live in a place where people are partying, you hear like people
Clifton,
scream.
Yeah, you're going to hear lots of people, especially on a night like that, you're going to hear a lot of, like, people just walking around screaming.
Yes. Partying, being loud, being obnoxious.
And it's Christmas, they'll be like, woo! Like, we all call them woo girls.
Woo!
Woo! Shots! Woo!
Exactly.
I'm going to be one of them on the 23rd.
I will stay away.
Yeah, I'm going to tonight Josephine with my dear friends, so it's going to be loud.
Oh, fair. With more evidence that the couple's flat was part of a crime scene, officers removed the front door to the residence to check for clothing fibres and any DNA. Investigators also had to explore the possibility that perhaps the perpetrator had entered the flat and waited for Joanna before she returned home that evening. On January 2nd, 2011, police issued a statement warning women not to walk home alone after dark, as Joanna's killer was still at large. And you know this is going to annoy me, Jess.
Always.
Like, I understand what they're doing, but also, why not issue a statement being like, hey, probably men don't kill people. Like,
yeah.
I mean, not even men necessarily. People,
just stop killing people.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, it's not the victim's fault.
No. But anyway, I understand. So
yeah.
Days after this, police also revealed that Joanna Yeates' body was found with one sock missing, and they stated that the sock wasn't found in a search of the couple's flat either, leading them to believe that the sock may have been used as a ligature and could be the murder weapon, and that perhaps the killer was keeping it as a trophy of sorts. Disgusting.
Weird.
On January 18th, 2011, the filming started of a reconstruction of Joanna's case for the BBC TV show Crime Watch, and almost immediately, just the production of this, and I think maybe like people talking about the production, generated 300 more calls to the police regarding the case.
Wow.
But, I know, right?
That's a lot, yeah.
I know. Police are also able to state that the tests of Joanna's stomach contents revealed that she did not eat the pizza she bought on her way home on December 17th.
Where is the pizza?
I know, like, it seems so like...
This is starting to annoy me a little bit. I want to know where the pizza is.
I know, it's one of those things where it's like, it sounds so silly that they're so caught up on this pizza, but it is weird. Like, it is weird.
Yeah, it's actually, like, I think quite a big bit of the story as well.
They said it was on their biggest bits of evidence, because they were like, obviously... The pizza made it home because everything else made it home.
Yeah, but what happened to the pizza and it's almost like if you can find out what happened to the pizza, you can find out what happened to Joanna.
Yeah, and it's like, it kind of sucks that it's pizza because it makes it like a little bit like...
Oh, it's pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it you know, it's not a hot pizza that she ate on the way home. It's literally a pizza that you had to cook.
Yeah, like we all know what a Tesco's oven pizza that you keep in the fridge does.
Like even if it wasn't frozen, it was chilled, it was raw.
Yeah, like you still need to cook it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was a Tesco's Express. It wasn't like, I know sometimes you can go into like the big Tesco's and get a hot one, but actually I don't know if they do them anymore.
I know Asda do, but anyway.
Yeah. Off topic.
So yeah, literally the police were like, this is going to be a vital clue.
Yeah.
This pizza, like once we find the pizza, we maybe find the killer. And one of these 300 tips, made by an anonymous female caller, proved to be a breaking point in the investigation. On the morning of January 20th, 2011, Avon and Somerset police arrested a 32-year-old man on suspicion of Joanna Yeates' murder. This man was none other than her neighbour, architectural engineer Vincent Tabak, who lived next door to Joanna and Greg with his girlfriend, Tanya Mawson. Vincent and his girlfriend went away for Christmas to Vincent's native Netherlands. Whilst Joanna's family was searching for and discovering the body of their loved one, Vincent was able to enjoy his holidays. Vincent Tabak had previously been ruled out of the investigation. Like, do you remember I said that they started questioning neighbours like within 4 hours?
Yeah.
This was one of the people they questioned, so they kind of ruled him out initially.
Okay, so I'm assuming then they would have done that with the landlord as well at some point, like if he lived above them.
Yeah.
But they obviously thought he was more suspicious.
Well, like I said, like he's weird, so of course he must have done it. So yeah, he'd actually been ruled out, and he'd also placed Christopher Jeffries in the firing line. So if you remember, he said that he noticed his car had moved during the night of Joanna's murder.
Yeah, and changed direction.
Yeah. So this later turned out to be a lie he had planted to take the heat away from himself.
Ooh.
But it also brought Vincent to the police's attention. So when Tanya saw that Christopher Jeffries had been arrested, she called to give more information that she and Vincent had that they thought may prove useful. However, when the police flew out to the Netherlands to take the statement from them, they soon found that Vincent's telling of the events that night were a bit inconsistent. He also apparently asked too many questions about the forensic work being carried out.
Yeah, that's always a big giveaway. Like, they were wanting to know how on
It's going.
Him. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, oh, so have you got any forensic? And I believe the police officer just kind of got like a bit of a sixth sense. She was like, this guy's weird. I've got a gut feeling. And you know what? Go with your gut. Always go with your gut.
Yeah.
And after obtaining a DNA sample from Vincent, it was soon found to be a match to DNA traces on Joanna's body. And fibres found on her matched those on Vincent's coat and in his car.
Oh.
Still, Vincent denied his involvement, even claiming that the police had planted the evidence on her body.
Wow, that is a bold statement.
Yeah, and I'm not saying police are never corrupt, but like, why? Why would they? He was questioned for 96 hours in total, and on January 22nd, police charged Vincent with the murder of Joanna Yeates, and he was remanded in custody, with Vincent declining to request bail. Believing their relative and friend was innocent, back in the Netherlands, Vincent's loved ones began raising funds for his court defence. But on February 8th, Vincent finally admitted the truth when he told prisoner chaplain Peter Brotherton that he had killed Joanna Yeates and planned to plead guilty in his trial. Vincent did, however, maintain that it had been manslaughter and not murder, and so pleaded guilty to only manslaughter on May 5th, 2011. This was rejected by the Crown Prosecution Service. The trial got underway on October 4th, 2011, and Vincent explained the events that led to the murder of Joanna Yeates, or at least his version of events.
Okay.
Well, Vincent claims that he walked past Joanna's kitchen window and she invited him in, which I already don't believe.
Yeah.
So, like, apparently these two had never met properly. Like, they'd maybe seen each other in passing and said hi, but they weren't friends.
Yeah.
So tell me why she would see her neighbour that she doesn't know walk past her window and tell him to come in.
Also, how many people, even if they are your neighbour, do you see walk past your window and just be like, oh yeah, come inside?
Yeah, like, not being funny, I like my neighbours. I really like my next door neighbours. I like most of the people in my street. I still wouldn't be like, oh, hey, come in, because...
Yeah, or like a gentle nod or a wave, fine, yeah, but not a come into the house.
And, like, if this was summertime, I'd find this more believable because you might have your window open and get chatting, but this was below freezing. Her window was not open. She's not having a chat with him. So in his mind, they've walked past, they've either waved, she's been like, come in, like gesturing to him. No, I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
Time of night that it is, if she's in the kitchen with the light on and he walks past, there's a high chance she wouldn't have even seen him, because if it's dark outside, you all know, like, it's very hard to see out of a window when it's dark outside.
Yeah,
or
you can see in easily, but...
Yeah. Or she would have, like, the curtains drawn. Like, that's one of my fears. Like, I always have to draw the curtains, because if I can see my own reflection because I can't see out, it scares me, because I'm like, anything could happen out there.
As you said that, I looked to my window, which I can see my reflection in, and I've got the blinds open.
Yeah, I always have to close them. Like, it really creeps me out. I'm like, yeah, close that.
But, yeah, that's the thing. And what I do believe, however, is that he walked past her, saw that she was alone. Because you bring up a good point. He could see in, maybe she couldn't see out. But anyway, Vincent said that she invited him in and that the pair began chatting. He said he found her very attractive in that moment, which, yeah, she was a pretty girl. And apparently he misread the situation and so went in to kiss her. This is when he said Joanna screamed, and so Vincent tried to silence her. How do you think he says he tried to silence her, Jess?
Putting his hands over her mouth and nose, maybe?
No, that would make sense. Try again.
Well, I know that she was strangled, so I'm guessing he tried to claim that he silenced her by putting his hands around her neck or something around her neck.
And after a few seconds, she died, apparently.
Oh, yeah, because
we've gone over this so often, like...
One of the most talked about things on this podcast is how easy it is to strangle someone.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's literally, humans are weak. Oh yeah, I put on chokers sometimes and honestly almost die. Like, I just think if you're going to lie about strangling someone, at least be aware that it takes a few minutes.
Oh, I know.
Like, if you're going to kill someone and try to make it look like an accident, don't strangle them.
Yeah.
I don't want to give people tips, but I'm just going to say, like... It's just, mind-boggling, especially because I think a ligature might have been used.
Like a head injury is a lot more of you could maybe get away with that, but not like strangling someone.
Like we said, we're not giving anyone any ideas, but like, come on.
Yeah, like...
So yeah, he said that she went to scream, he put his hands around his neck, totally normal thing to do, of course. Yeah. And after a few seconds, she died.
Every time I hear someone scream...
Yeah, I'm like, oh, better strangle them.
Yeah, you know what? Instead of asking them to be quiet or covering their mouth, straight for the neck.
Also, why was he so worried about her screaming?
Yeah.
Like,
also, even if he had misread the situation, he's got a girlfriend. Why is he trying to kiss her?
But you can totally rectify this. You can go, oh, my bad, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to leave now. I'm so embarrassed. I'm really sorry. Yeah, you've got a boyfriend. I've got a girlfriend. I'm so sorry. Yeah. But just anything other than killing someone is a normal response. I've been rejected before. It's embarrassing. You get over it.
Yeah, you don't wrap your hands around somebody's neck.
I also don't think a woman screams when you try and kiss them, unless you're forceful.
Yeah.
I've had someone go in to kiss me before and I've moved backwards. Yeah, and screamed.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few stages before screaming.
Yeah, it's only if someone was then being forceful... and trying to, assaulting me.
Assault you.
That's why I'm going to scream. Sorry, I get very worked up about this. Honestly, like, what also annoys me is I saw that a few articles called him, said that the police said that he was clever and calculated. And I'm like, how?
I mean, that's a dumb thing to say, what he's just said.
Like, I understand that he, tried to frame other people, but this man inserted himself into the investigation, got all questiony about it, to police.
Tried to blame police,
and then says that he pressed her neck for a few seconds and she died. Like, I don't see how he's happy. How he's clever. Like, he couldn't even lie well, and I'm happy about that, but still. And to counter Vincent's claims of what took place on the night of Joanna's murder, pathologist Dr. Delaney revealed in court that Joanna suffered 43 injuries during the fight for her life. And he made it clear that these were injuries sustained while she was alive. So these aren't injuries of when she's dead and he's moving the body. This is, she's alive, she's fighting, 43 injuries.
Christ, that is a lot.
Yeah. He also explained that while strangling Joanna, Vincent would have seen her struggling to breathe, which, obviously, of course.
Yeah.
It takes minutes, not seconds. He said that Vincent could have removed his hand to save Joanna's life, but he chose not to. So,
Agreed.
Just in case anyone was in any, hey.
His story does sound a little bit like he could have been an accident. No.
No, like a pathologist, a highly qualified individual has reiterated what we just said. Well, we've reiterated him, but And I'll quickly touch on the injuries Joanna sustained. They're not graphic per se, but I don't like to just sit here and go on about someone's injuries because I think that's unnecessary. But just to dispel any doubts about Vincent's guilt, I will. Dr. Delaney showed the court photographs of bruises to Joanna's neck and chin, as well as blood under her nose. So normally when you strangle someone doesn't have blood under the nose, the nose doesn't bleed. So after Joanna died, Vincent's defence, Mr. Clegg QC, stated that Vincent panicked and removed the pizza that Joanna was cooking out of the oven. Mystery solved about the pizza. Yeah. I'm not really sure why he removed the pizza. I understand turning the oven off. Yeah. I don't really know why he removed it.
What happened to the packaging as well, though?
I think he took it? I don't know.
That's really, like, why?
I don't know.
Why?
It's honestly, again, I don't understand how they called him clever.
Yeah.
Because why not get rid of the bottles? Why not take her phone and her keys?
Yeah, why
and her...
just the pizza? He definitely ate the pizza.
Well, he says he didn't, but yeah.
But if it wasn't in the...
He says he threw it away.
Trash. Well, it wasn't in her apartment.
No. I just think if you're actually clever, you'd take her phone, you'd take her keys, you'd take her coat.
Yeah. You would take a lot more than just a pizza.
Yeah, it's very weird. Very, very weird.
I also feel like if you're that clever that you don't murder people. Come on.
Yeah, if you're that clever, you just don't do this. But he then carried Joanna's body to his flat. His girlfriend Tanya was away that night, so she wasn't there. She's not involved. She's never been convicted.
Okay.
He stored Joanna's... I think she genuinely believed that they had information about Christopher Jeffries and was in the dark about Vincent's involvement.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite sad
so
for her.
she's a victim here as well.
Yeah.
He stored Joanna's body in a bicycle cover, and then he placed her in his boot and drove to his local Asda. I think to then get other things to...
Okay.
Or maybe he... I mean, again, this man... It's so weird, some of the events.
Went for a nice food shop. Like.
Yeah, it's also my local Asda, so that's nice. He then drove to Fayland, where he tried to place Joanna's body over a wall. There was blood on the wall, which indicated this. However, after finding out that he couldn't quite manage this, he instead placed her on the verge where she would be found and attempted to cover her with snow and leaves. And I guess he did this well enough because her body wasn't found for 8 days.
Yeah.
Vincent then returned home and texted his girlfriend Tanya, saying, "Miss you loads, it's boring here without you."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I get that he's trying to cover up his tracks, but knowing what he had just done, I know he's obviously trying to say, like, it's boring, I've not done anything. But obviously in the context of, like, you've just murdered someone and then you're being like, it's boring.
Yeah, it's almost like going that step, like overcompensating.
Yeah, again, I don't see how he's intelligent here.
No.
I really don't, but he could just say, "Oh, miss you, love you." Like, that to me is a normal text that I send Mikey when he's away.
Like, "I miss you, I love you, can't wait for you to come home." Doesn't he, you know, it's boring without you.
Exactly. He says that he then disposed of the pizza and threw away Joanna's sock. Remember, she was one was missing when she was found. And apparently he did this in his wheelie bin.
Okay.
But I have to imagine that they would have searched everyone's wheelie bins.
Especially if it was a flat, because surely they have obviously their own bins in their house, but then they have like communal.
Well, some flats have like wheelie bin. So if it says wheelie bin, because I know when I lived in a flat, we had like those big like
the communal
bins.
ones.
Yeah, they're massive. But I suppose if it's like wheelie bins, sometimes they've got numbers on them, haven't they? Or like top flat, ground floor flat.
Yeah, true.
So
I guess in a big flat you would need a wheelie bin each, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I just think it would be a complete oversight for the police not to have searched
everyone.
If they're going to search her bin, why not, like, because you can get mixed up, or you could just be that person who doesn't, like, maybe she just, you know, she could have been someone who was like, I don't care, I'm putting it in any bin.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what he said. And they didn't find it, so. More evidence that this wasn't manslaughter is that Vincent's online history showed that he enjoyed pornography where extreme violence was shown towards women, especially those videos depicting people throttling women. Yeah.
Wow.
And your face there just said it all.
Yeah, that is extreme violence towards women as well. Like,
yeah, like you can have kinks. I think we all have kinks.
Yeah.
And consensual acts are fine. Like, you know, BDSM, subdom, strangulation, all that is absolutely fine if it's consensual and you've got safe words and all that. You know, it doesn't make you a murderer. It doesn't make you a bad person. I'm not saying that about the community.
Yeah.
It's a great community normally. I'm not part of it myself, but it doesn't bode well for you if you enjoy watching this to arouse you and then you say that you accidentally strangled a woman if you get off on watching people throttle women. Also, it does show the sexual element to the act. So like the police said, she wasn't sexually assaulted, but they believe that there could have been a sexual motive, and they believe that there was a sexual motive. Additionally, child pornography was found on Vincent's laptop. So, if you're thinking that maybe he is an all right guy somehow, no.
Yeah, if all this is
Not convincing you.
Not convincing enough.
The police also found that he had searched refuse collection dates. I guess with it being the festive period, they may have been a bit up in the air. So he could make sure the sock and pizza evidence was gone. He also searched the location of Joanna's body. I'm guessing searched where to dump her, for want of a better word. And also body decomposition times. Though I will say, it was freezing. Surely he knows that she's not going to decompose as quickly as usual. In court, Vincent admitted to trying to frame Christopher Jeffries and also used the time to apologise to Joanna's family for putting them through, in his words, a week of hell. Now, I know he's referring to the time that they said was the worst time of their lives and it was a bit better once they found her, but it just seems like a bit of an oversight to only apologise for that.
For that week, yeah. Not for murdering her and for the fact that they'll never get their daughter back.
So the jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict.
How?
Yeah, I know how. I know we weren't there and I've never been on a jury, but I just don't understand how they weren't guilty. But
with all the evidence as well.
Oh, mate, I don't even know. But there's always one in there. There's always one. In fact, in this case, there were two, but luckily, the judge accepted a majority verdict and they came to this 10-2. Vincent Tabak was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Joanna Yeates with a minimum of 20 years. On March 2nd, 2015, Vincent Tabak also pled guilty to the possession of more than 100 indecent images of children, landing him 10 months in prison, which was set to run concurrently with his existing life sentence. And by the way, that's not long enough.
No.
Also, let's touch on that life sentence. 20 years. That's nothing. In fact, this year, Vincent was moved to a lower security prison. This was from his maximum security, meaning life is a bit nicer for him as well. However, his request to be transferred back to Holland under the prisoner transfer scheme was refused, which is good because I think life is quite good over there for prisoners.
Yeah,
which I'm all for. I'm for rehabilitation, and Holland seems to have got prison quite right in some ways. But I feel like murderers with child pornography, maybe don't deserve that.
Yeah, I mean they are both quite extreme. Murder and child pornography are very, very extreme crimes.
Yeah, and also to my knowledge, there was no escalation. He went straight from the pornography to murder.
Oh, really? Normally this is the part of the podcast and the case where we talk about what led up to this.
Oh, yeah, but nothing. I mean, other than the pornography and then the child pornography, there's nothing else. They also say that he's been an exemplary prisoner since he was convicted, which, good, I guess.
Yeah.
But he still strangled a woman to death and tried to frame an innocent man and partly ruin that man's life.
Yeah.
And so on that note, about Christopher Jeffries. So the media vilified this man. They completely tore apart his character and felt they could do so because, according to sources, Christopher Jeffries is slightly eccentric and enjoys his own company. And if that makes you a murderer, then I'm in danger because I love my own company and a lot of people call me weird. So
yeah, nothing wrong with that.
In fact, Christopher Jeffries, he spoke in the Leveson inquiry, which I knew the name of and I kind of knew what it was about, but I'll go into a bit. So the Leveson inquiry was a judicial public inquiry into the culture, ethics and practices of the British press after it was found that they hacked into phones to gain evidence. So this was media owned by Rupert Murdoch, and they found that employees were engaging in police bribery and exercising improper influence to pursue stories. In terms of the phone hacking, I think this is what most people remember. They kind of hacked into everyone. So they did it from celebrities to murder victims' families, including that of Millie Dowler and who we haven't spoken about, but was quite a big case in the UK. Millie Dowler and also Lee Rigby.
Yeah.
They were just hacking into everyone's and just getting information and then leaking it. So it was pretty disgusting.
Yeah, I remember that happening.
Yeah, and Rupert Murdoch did lose his position within the company, as did his son, who was an executive chairman, I believe.
Yeah.
So it did cause ripples, and it was a very big inquiry. And in the Leveson inquiry, Christopher Jeffries gave evidence, like I said, and he spoke about how he was forced into a, his words, hole in the corner existence by the hostile press coverage. He states it was a smear campaign and that parts were just pure fabrication.
Wow.
So the day after Christopher Jeffries' arrest, the Daily Mail called him a nutty professor. He was a retired teacher, so that's why.
Okay.
I think he was a head teacher, actually. The Sun and Daily Record called him the strange Mr. Jeffries, and the Daily Mirror referred to him as a peeping Tom. The Sun article also described him as weird with a strange walk and talk. They called him lewd and said that he made sexual remarks, and a creepy loner with blue rinse hair, which also he doesn't have. He's just got grey hair.
Okay, so they're even lying about his hair colour.
Yeah, he's just a man with grey hair.
Also, what's wrong with the blue rinse?
Yeah, it
Leave
doesn't
him alone.
But this is the thing. I know if I was ever in the press for anything, people would be like, "Well, obviously, look at her. She's got pink hair." It's just one of those things. And they just tore...
it's a personality trait now, having a different coloured hair, isn't it?
Yeah, they just tore this man apart because they could, and they there was no actual evidence that he ever did anything to Joanna, but because he was a slightly weird man, they just tore into him. So Jeffries also said in the Leveson inquiry, he said, "The press freedom has been allowed to excuse licensed irresponsibility, and that the search for sensation and increased sales will take almost any risks, knowing that the penalties available are unlikely to seriously hurt them." So basically, he was saying that they'll do anything to get a good story because there's no action, there's no consequences for them.
Yeah.
In essence, the press ruined Christopher Jeffries' life and reputation for a story when, like I said, he hadn't been charged of anything and was completely innocent and instead framed by Vincent Tabak, the true murderer.
Yeah.
And they did really hound him. They stayed outside his house. They were horrible to him. There's in fact been a documentary made about this, which has got 2 awards.
I mean, I feel like everyone knows what the press are like and hounding people.
They just they just ruined his life. It was horrible. Oh, they've also said that police have come out and said that this could have potentially damaged the investigation into Joanna's murder as well.
Oh, really?
Because they were just focusing on him and not the truth. Following the treatment of Christopher Jeffries, a debate in the House of Commons on February 4th, 2011, Anna Soubry, a Conservative MP, told the House, "What we saw in Bristol was, in effect, a feeding frenzy and vilification. Much of the coverage was not only completely irrelevant, but there was a homophobic tone to it which I found deeply offensive. The slurs on the man were out of order." I don't know if Christopher Jeffries is gay, so I'm not sure about the homophobic tone, but basically they were just disgusting. And in the end, 8 British newspapers agreed to pay him libel damages. Good. Which is nice, but money can't fix a reputation, and that will always follow him. Yeah. Even if you get cleared, there's always those people who say no smoke without fire and everything. And
oh god, yeah.
He still was called weird and strange, and
also that can be so damaging to someone's mental health.
Oh, completely. I think how anxious that would make you, and also how self-conscious. They're saying that he's weird and he looks weird and he talks weird and he walks weird and he's just weird, and it's that's a man who's done nothing wrong, and you're just being tearing apart how he looks and how he acts. Yeah. But on that, put it this way, bottom line, the press were disgusting to Christopher Jeffries, and he was completely innocent. He's allowed to be a bit eccentric, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that's fucking amazing. I like people who are a bit different. Yeah. So back to Joanna. Following her death, her partner Greg started a charity in her memory to raise funds for families of missing people. I'm not sure what it's called, as I couldn't find the link to it was broken, so maybe it doesn't exist anymore, but he at least did it for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Her family and friends planted a memorial garden for Home Romsey at Sir Harold Hillier Gardens, where she had worked as a student. And in Bristol, the company she worked for, called Building Design Partnership, if you remember, teamed up with North Bristol NHS Trust to plant a memorial garden she had been designing for the new hospital in Southmead. BDP also planted a garden of remembrance for her at their studio, as well as publishing an anthology of her work. An annual landscape design prize was also named after her at the University of Gloucester. Joanna Yeates' funeral was held on February 11th, 2011 at St Mark's in Ampfield, Hampshire, and was attended by around 300 people, showing just how loved she truly was and is. And that's pretty much all I have. I mean, it seems like Joanna was going, like her life was already going so well. She was probably going to, like Greg has said, they were probably going to get married.
Yeah.
He believed that she was the woman for him. They were probably going to get married, maybe start a family, who knows, maybe that's not what they wanted. She was so successful in her career. She had everything going for her, and it was taken away from her just because
he could. I think that's the saddest thing, is that, like you said, you'll never know what their plan was.
No.
Like, you don't know what she would have gone on to be, whether she would have gone on to have kids, and probably, from the sounds of it, she would have probably been more of a success.
Yeah.
And
at the end of the day, though, she had a whole life to live, and she got that taken away from her.
And that's
because
the saddest thing. Yeah,
because of this man who I believe probably knocked on her door, and she let him in because he had an excuse to come in.
Yeah.
And it just all seems so pointless.
Yeah.
So yeah, that concludes the case of Joanna Yeates. Like we said, it's sad to lose anyone and then go through Christmas. And the Christmases probably don't get any easier.
Oh God.
But it's very sad to lose someone around Christmas and for them to actually be found on Christmas Day.
Because when did you say that happened? 2011. So
11 years ago.
Yeah, I do remember it happening, but obviously
You were 18. You probably had other things going on.
Yeah.
18-year-olds are quite self-involved. We all are, but 18-year-olds, you know.
Well, because I remember it happening, because obviously that was like the time that I was starting to go out as an 18-year-old. So obviously that was like a massive, massive thing in Bristol.
Oh yeah, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because where she was that night is quite central.
Yeah. And I remember her landlord being accused and then one of her neighbours being convicted, but didn't know like all the ins and outs. Like, I knew that she was strangled and I knew she was found on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know all like the ins and outs. Like, the pizza thing really blows my mind, just because it's so confusing. Like,
yeah,
why?
and it's such an odd detail, but yeah.
It was obviously quite a key detail, though.
Yeah. Well, as Greg, her boyfriend, actually said, he was like, you're just like, why could we not have won the lottery? Because statistically, it's probably just as likely as being murdered by your stranger of a neighbour.
Yeah. You just got the sad statistic, unfortunately.
Yeah. So that is all we've got. If, like we said, if Christmas is hard for you, look after yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch Christmas films. Put on a horror film. Put on anything. Just
put on a Christmas horror film.
Yeah, honestly,
it's not very good, but
just honestly, look after yourselves. If this is a hard time, look after yourself. If you enjoy Christmas, then have a lovely Christmas.
Eat lots of food.
Eat lots of food. And other than that, we'll see you in the new year. Thank you for making this such a lovely year for us. But our main takeaway is look after yourselves. And just remember, stay spooky. Hey guys, if you have a ghost story or a case suggestion, please email us, truecrimecovenpod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Twitter @truecrimecoven or on Instagram and Facebook, where we are @truecrimecovenpod.
Also, it would mean the absolute world to us if you could rate us wherever you're listening to this right now, be it Spotify, Apple Music, or if you're on YouTube, give us a little thumbs up, click that bell, get notifications every time we post.
Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts from.
Make these two witches smile. Thanks, witches!